Star Trek has seen its fair share of ups and downs over the last decade, but we just got an update that suggests the turbulence could be finally coming to an end. Now, for those of you that don't know, the current franchise boss, or I guess we'll call him the overseer of Star Trek, Alex Kurtzman, has confirmed his contract expires this year with no guarantee of renewal. Now, this potential changing of the guard comes right as the news breaks about a completely new Star Trek movie currently in development from the directors of the Dungeons & Dragons movie, signaling a massive shift from the streaming era to a unified theatrical future. Today I'll be breaking down what these comments from Kurtzman actually reveal, and we're going to talk about whether or not a hard reset is in the future, and why I think this year is one of the most pivotal years for Star Trek. So let's go ahead and dive in. So starting things off, Alex Kurtzman, the architect of the modern Star Trek from Discovery to Strange New Worlds, is officially on the clock, you can say. In a recent interview, Kurtzman confirmed that his overall deal with CBS Studios and Paramount is set to expire this year, which this could be a massive turning point. Now, over the last 5 years, he's had carte blanche to expand the universe, launching 5 different series and overseeing the entire creative direction of the brand on TV. But with the recent sale of Paramount to Skydance Media, led by David Ellison, the blank check might be bouncing. Now, this interview that he did was quite telling. He revealed that he has not yet met with the new CEO, David Ellison, to discuss his future. Instead, he has been meeting with executives further down the ladder. He said this, and I quote, "All things being equal, if everybody wants to continue, terrific, and we'll all see how it goes." To me, that kind of sounds like a man who knows that his fate is, up in the air. Things kind of hang in the balance for the most part. The statement that he said, quote unquote, "we'll see how it goes," is not the, I have a 10-year plan already planned out and my job is fully secure. It's a PR way of saying, I hope they don't fire me, but I have no idea. We have to kind of look at this, pretty neutrally. Under his tenure, the franchise has been undeniably active. He brought Star Trek back from the dead. He brought us, Strange New Worlds, which is widely considered as one of the best prequels ever made. And then with Picard Season 3, he gave the TNG crew the send-off that they deserved. However, the streaming numbers haven't always justified the massive budgets. Discovery was divisive, alienating a large portion of the legacy fan base. And with Skydance and the new leadership at Paramount looking to cut costs and streamline the studio to make it profitable again, while also releasing massive, big budget, successes, renewing a massive and expensive contract for a showrunner who splits the fan base might not be their top priority. The reality is I think CBS signed a 9-figure deal with him 5 years ago. So yeah, that's quite a lot of money to be passed around to somebody who, does divide the fan base. Now, Skydance has explicitly stated that Star Trek is a priority for them, but they haven't explicitly stated that Alex Kurtzman's Star Trek is the priority. Now, this leads us to the big question: will they move forward with him as the creative driving force? Or is Alex Kurtzman about to be relieved of his command? And if I'm being honest, I think that a replacement is likely, or at the very least, a significant demotion in power. But I have a feeling that they will likely replace him entirely. Now, there have been some rumors swirling claiming that Skydance may only offer Kurtzman a short-term deal with reduced control over the franchise, which the rumor suggests that this new leadership wants a hard reset, or at least a distinct separation between the old streaming shows and the future of the franchise. So why would they do this? Well, I think it comes down to the burnout and brand identity and unity. Right now, Star Trek feels fractured, and in a way it actually is. You have the Discovery timeline in the 32nd, century. You have the Strange New Worlds timeline in the 23rd century. And then you have the Kelvin timeline in an alternate reality, which that's already been canceled, so we don't have to talk about that much, but it's just kind of a mess for casual viewers. Skydance CEO David Ellison has history with this franchise. His company co-produced Star Trek Into Darkness and Star Trek Beyond. He is a fan, but he is also a businessman that understands theatrical blockbusters. The rumor suggests that this new leadership wants to unify the franchise under a holistic strategy similar to what James Gunn is doing to the DCU, or what Kevin Feige does at Marvel. This means that they might want a single creative voice to oversee both film and TV, ensuring that both of them match up. Kurtzman has been almost exclusively focused on TV. Now, if Skydance wants to pivot back to big budget movies, which they do want to, big budget movies, typically in the box office make much more money than streaming subs. They might decide to look for a leader with more cinematic experience. If I had to bet, I'd say Kurtzman might stay as an executive producer for Starfleet Academy, and they'll utilize him for, specific projects that are related to TV. But that would also mean that his role as the, quote unquote Kevin Feige of Star Trek will likely be handed to someone else. Now, it could be that David Ellison is perfectly happy with what Kurtzman is doing, but again, I just don't see that. In my opinion, I think the franchise needs a fresh voice. It needs somebody who respects the canon, but isn't afraid to move away from the, mystery box storytelling that has plagued recent seasons. Now, if Kurtzman represents the old guard, then Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daley represent the new blood. This is some of the most exciting news that we've had in years. It's been confirmed that this directing duo, famous for the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, is the ones developing the new Star Trek movie. But here's the kicker. It's reported that it's a completely new take that is unconnected to any previous series or movies. This means it's not Star Trek IV with Chris Pine, it's not a Picard movie, it's something entirely standalone. So why is this a good thing? Well, because Goldstein and Daley know how to make, really solid and fun ensemble movies. Star Trek at its best is an ensemble drama with humor, heart, and adventure. And Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves proved that they can handle the heavy lore without bogging down the story. They made a fantasy movie that felt accessible to non-nerds while also respecting the hardcore fans. It is exactly what Star Trek needs right now. The tone of Star Trek recently has been very heavy. A Goldstein and Daley movie suggests the pivot back to adventure, hopefully with a crew that actually likes each other, solving a problem that doesn't necessarily involve the end of all sentient life. Now, the report states that this project is a priority for the new Paramount regime, shifting entirely away from the Kelvin timeline, with the goal of starting fresh with a new cinematic universe without the baggage of the last 15 years. And if this movie is a success, it will likely set the tone for the next decade of Star Trek. It could serve as the soft reboot, launching a new crew in a new ship that eventually spins off into its own TV shows, leaving the convoluted timelines of the Kurtzman era behind us. We are currently standing at a massive crossroads. The year 2026 is going to define the next 20 years of this franchise. On one hand, you have the legacy path trying to keep the Kurtzman verse alive, and then on the other hand, you have the new frontier, the Goldstein and Daley movie, and the Skydance leadership looking to make Star Trek a theatrical juggernaut again. This franchise can't sustain both paths forever. Paramount Plus is struggling. They can't afford to pump $150 million into TV shows that only niche audiences are watching. They need a global hit. This is why I think the theatrical side is going to win. If the new movie, hits big, the television universe will likely just get retooled to match it. We might see a slow phasing out of the current shows, all to kind of make room for the unified cinematic universe. I will say it is a scary time for fans who love the current shows, but to a lot of people, it's a necessary evolution. Star Trek has survived cancellation before, and it will survive this, but it does need to evolve. We can't keep mining the nostalgia of the 1960s forever. We need new characters, new ships, and new stories, with writing that is actually good. So here's my take on the future of Star Trek. I don't hate modern Star Trek. Strange New Worlds is fantastic television, but I want better for the franchise. It feels like the last 10 years, Star Trek has just kind of been throwing spaghetti at the wall. Let's go Dark War show. Let's do comedy. Let's do a nostalgia trip. It just lacks a cohesive vision and soul. Alex Kurtzman has done a pretty solid job keeping the lights on when nobody else wanted to touch the IP. He brought it back from the dead, but his style of storytelling, high stakes, and loose adherence to canon has kind of run its course in my opinion. The fact that he has not yet met the, CEO does speak volumes. If you are the key to the kingdom, the king needs to meet you on day one. And I believe handing the keys to Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daley is the right move. They understand the found family dynamics better than anyone in Hollywood right now. And if they can bring the Dungeons and Dragons energy to the bridge of a starship, we are in for quite the treat. So that right there is the state of the Star Trek universe. Kurtzman contract is ending this year. The new Star Trek movie is currently in development. I'm sure they're still working on the scripts and they'll be filming probably within the next year and a half. So the future does look pretty solid and the hype is real. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. Do you like current Star Trek? Do you hope that Alex Kurtzman keeps his job? Or do you want something new for Star Trek? Let me know down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe with your noties on. And until next time, this has been Wes, and I will talk to you guys on the other side of the world. Live long and prosper.